It's haunting video showing Chris Watts and his wife Shan'ann on their wedding day.
I will love you. Stand by as long as we both shall live.
The couple looked happy as they exchanged vows and danced their first dance. Shanann's family gave toasts expressing their joy. I realize this trip's what's missing in our relationship. It's only one way emotions and feelings, Shenan wrote. The last message she sent was on the night before she was strangled at their home in Colorado. Finally on plane and about to take off, she texted Watts, "Thank God, prayers for safe flight. Love you."
On Sunday morning, July 29th, Chris Watts awoke in a yellow tent at the Zapata Falls campsite. Probably the firewood and ice they'd bought at the Oasis gas station the previous day was already burned through and melted. But it was a night well spent and the start of a beautiful new day in Colorado. That morning the lovebirds left their perch beneath the trees and above the clouds and headed to the falls.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime.
New video also reveals Watts with his mistress, Nicole Kessinger.
Thank you so much for coming out here with me, Christopher. I am having a wonderful time. You mean a lot to me.
By 09:22 that morning, relatively late, Watts started taking photos. If the previous afternoon had been cloudy and about sand, dunes, surfing and leaving footprints in the sand, Sunday morning was about a slower, gentler pace with the sound of gurgling water and a whooshing waterfall in the background. And then these kisses. The power and the beauty of the natural setting was relaxing and refreshing. That day, Watts changed his grey shirt for a shirt with a grey front and charcoal black shoulders and sleeves. Kessinger changed her bright outfit for a softer grey too. At 10:38, Watts transferred a fully nude selfie of Kessinger to his secret calculator app. Was it taken that night? Before we get to the rest of this analysis, if you're finding this series worthwhile and you don't want to miss additional episodes, you might want to hit the subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell. By the way, I'll be following up the video on Koberger with 5 more shocking moments from the sentencing hearing. It really was quite extraordinary. And you can watch part 1 of that 2-part series if you haven't already. If you're finding this series insightful, please do hit the thanks button and let's get started. At 10:55 that morning, Watts consulted his phone again and noted with dismay, pretty much I guess what he expected to find, a bunch of missed calls from his wife. He felt the resistance rising in him as he reported to her that the hike was finished and that they were heading back. Once again, he is casually, easily lying, basically saying that he went hiking with colleagues from work. Well, it was actually one colleague and not guys, one girl that he was sleeping with. He purposefully didn't call because that would mean talking to his wife in front of Kessinger, and he didn't want to spoil the weekend, and he was already feeling that every time that he had to communicate with Shenan, he was being torn away from her, and that was spoiling the fun. And so he was starting to feel this rising certainty that he didn't want to talk to her, and also he didn't want to go back. In the image above, taken by Kessinger, notice there's a slight edge to Watts' smile. It's slightly forced. Between 12:46 and 14:21, Shenan made 4 more unanswered calls to her husband. Now think about it, it's the weekend and he's basically unavailable. He's not talking to her, not taking her calls, and she's concerned, she's suspicious. She wants to know what's going on, and she's absolutely right. Kessinger's friend Charlotte Nelson also called her and invited her to a Renaissance festival, but the hike still wasn't over. Curiously, it wasn't just Chris Watts who was lying about what he was doing, Nicole was as well. And so Nicole told her best friend, well, she made an excuse why she couldn't go to this festival because she was with Chris, but she didn't want Charlotte to know that. But Kessinger told investigators that she and Chris stopped in Colorado Springs at BJ's, that's on their way back from the Great Sand Dunes. They sat to the right of the doors and Chris paid for their meals with a gift card, which if you think about it, that's unusual. BJ's restaurant is located at 5150 North Nevada Avenue, Colorado Springs. That's according to the Discovery Documents, page 648. We see that on July 30th, it was still important for Watts to keep his expenditures off Shanann's radar. And that's going via the BJ's restaurant in Colorado Springs and through Denver. Watts knew Shenan wanted to talk to him and would be pissed when he did, so he elected to postpone the inevitable confrontation. Watts finally called Shenan and spoke briefly to her at 14:25 that day. He'd been incommunicado in terms of direct two-way communication since Friday afternoon at 16:44. That's assuming the phone data review is accurate. It's likely this call on Sunday afternoon was made with Kessinger still sitting beside him in the car, possibly driving. On the other hand, maybe Watts was driving since he didn't respond to a series of work-related texts throughout the day either. Watts only reported in to them at 18:20. So if you really think about it, there's quite a lot of lying and deception going on from both of them. They are lying to their friends, they're lying to family, they're lying to basically their co-workers as well. They're lying in terms of the workspace that they're in as well. So how hard is it to take that level of obfuscation and deception to the next level, which is to include perhaps the police? By 17:30, Shenan was starting to lose it. She made more unanswered calls to him, then texted him again at 17:49. Once again, Watts used the bit of intel he had at hand to fashion a credible lie. He knew about the Renaissance Festival, and so he used a plausible event to conceal and divert from his real adventure further south. Shenan finally got hold of her errant husband at 19:24 when they held a 14-minute conversation. Shenan clearly bought his bullshit at the end of the day, but then having accepted it, she wanted to have a conversation with her husband. But guess what? He didn't want to. The weekend, as far as he was concerned, still wasn't over. And that is a kind of psychological analogy, a kind of a pattern that would repeat itself when after this roller coaster ride for a couple of weeks was over. Well, as far as he was concerned, he still didn't want it to be over. He still wanted a kind of a prolonged postscript or after party or whatever you want to call it. Shenan wanted to talk about her weekend and especially her Sunday. This is what she'd been up to while Watts was sandboarding with his girlfriend, basically working. But even though Shenan was trying to guilt him into talking to her, her sarcasm didn't work. He told Shenan he was really sorry she had had a hard weekend and that he'd make it up to her. Well, he wasn't sorry. If he was sorry, he would have stuck around to talk to her. And he wasn't going to make it up to her either. He just needed, once again, to get her off his back ASAP so he could get back to her. Shenan followed this up with a few more barbs until she finally gave up, telling him she was done begging him to talk to her. But Shanann's right. He was out of it. He was out of their marriage. He was out of it from playing. And if Shenan was done, it just made his life so much easier. The problem was Shenan actually wasn't done. And her becoming undone, and worse, her becoming aware of this affair and the whole pregnancy thing surrounding it, including the imminent gender reveal, all of this was going to present a serious imminent danger to this relationship that he was desperate to keep. So Watts's mind, meanwhile, was on how to pay for the events of that evening and July 31st, his very last day with the new love of his life, before he was torn back to North Carolina. Well, I'm not going to take it further than that. Look out for the next episode in the series coming soon. Take care, and I'll see you guys next time.